One of her triplet sons needs heart surgery, but the only surgeon is the billionaire who ruined her life. I need you to save our son's life, but that doesn't mean I forgive you for destroying our family. I never asked for your forgiveness, Avery. I'm here as a surgeon, not as the father who walked away. Then tell me this, how will you feel cutting into the heart of a child you chose to abandon? Will you even remember his name when you hold his life in your hands? The tension in the hospital room was suffocating as Avery Matthews stared down the man who had once been her husband, the brilliant surgeon who had walked away from their triplet sons without a backward glance. Now, one of those boys lay in a hospital bed, his life hanging in the balance, with only one person skilled enough to save him. Have you ever been forced to turn to the very person who broke you for help? That moment when pride and pain must be set aside because something far more precious hangs in the balance? If you've ever had to swallow your dignity to protect someone you love, hit that like button. I'm Mr. Harrison, and today I'm sharing the extraordinary story of a mother's impossible choice, a surgeon's chance at redemption, and a young boy whose heart needed healing in more ways than one. The soccer ball soared through the crisp autumn air, a perfect arc against the blue sky. 10-year-old Noah Matthews tracked it with intense concentration, his lean body already moving into position. Unlike his brothers, Noah played with calculated precision rather than raw energy. He was the strategist of the triplets, always thinking 3 moves ahead. "Got it, Noah!" his brother Mason shouted from across the field, already running into position. Noah nodded, preparing to execute the perfect pass they'd practiced all week. He took 2 quick steps forward, his chest expanding for a deep breath. Then something went terribly wrong. A sharp pain lanced through his chest like lightning. The world tilted sideways. The last thing he heard was his brother Carter's panicked voice calling his name before darkness claimed him. From the sidelines, Avery Matthews watched in horror as her son crumpled to the ground. Time seemed to slow as she sprinted across the field, her heart pounding with a mother's primal fear. "Noah!" she screamed, dropping to her knees beside his motionless form. His face was ashen, lips tinged with blue. "Someone call an ambulance." The next hours passed in a blur of sirens, emergency room lights, and medical terminology that failed to mask the gravity of the situation. Tests were ordered, specialists consulted, and finally, Avery found herself sitting across from Dr. Richard Bennett, the hospital administrator, as he delivered the news that would shatter her carefully constructed world. "I'm afraid Noah has a congenital ventricular septal anomaly with pulmonary hypertension," Dr. Bennett explained, his voice gentle but direct. "It's a complex heart defect that has gone undetected until now." Avery stared at the medical report in her trembling hands, the words blurring as tears threatened to spill. "But he's been healthy his whole life. He plays sports. How could we not have known? Some cardiac defects can remain asymptomatic until a child reaches this age, especially when they're as physically active as Noah." The increased exertion finally put enough strain on his heart to trigger the collapse. "Can it be treated?" Avery asked, maternal determination replacing shock in her voice. Dr. Bennett nodded. "With surgery, yes. The good news is that with proper treatment, Noah can lead a completely normal life. Then let's schedule it immediately." That's where things become complicated. Dr. Bennett shifted uncomfortably in his seat. This particular defect requires a specialized procedure. Very few surgeons have the expertise to perform it successfully. "How few?" Avery pressed, a sense of dread building in her stomach. 3 in the country. 2 are currently unavailable. 1 is recovering from a stroke, and the other is conducting research in Antarctica for the next 6 months. Avery's throat tightened. "And the third?" Dr. Bennett hesitated before answering. "Dr. Logan Pierce." The name hit her like a physical blow. Logan Pierce, brilliant cardiovascular surgeon, medical innovator, billionaire philanthropist, and the man who had systematically dismantled her life 5 years ago. "No," she said automatically, rising from her chair. "There has to be someone else." "I'm sorry, Ms. Matthews. Dr. Pierce pioneered this procedure. He's not only the best option, he's currently the only option if you want the surgery performed within the time frame Noah needs." Avery closed her eyes, memories flooding back unbidden. Logan's intense gaze across a crowded charity gala. Their whirlwind romance. The 3 years of marriage that had given her the greatest joys of her life, her sons, and the most profound pain she'd ever experienced. "I'll find another way," she said, gathering her purse with shaking hands. "Thank you for your time, Dr. Bennett." Outside the hospital, Avery sat in her car for nearly an hour, unable to drive, unable to think clearly. Her phone buzzed repeatedly, her best friend Mia checking in. The boys' school confirming Carter and Mason could stay in after-school care until 6. Her boss wondering when she'd return to work. None of it seemed to matter. All she could think about was Noah's pale face in the hospital bed, and the impossible choice before her. Across town, in the gleaming headquarters of Pierce Medical Innovations, Logan Pierce reviewed quarterly reports with his business partner, Ethan Blackwood. At 42, Logan had achieved more than most people accomplished in a lifetime. His revolutionary surgical techniques had saved thousands of lives. His medical technology company was valued at billions. His philanthropic foundation funded hospitals in underserved communities worldwide. And yet, something essential was missing, a fact his closest associates recognized but never mentioned. "The board is impressed with the new cardiac valve design," Ethan was saying. "Production can begin next quarter if you approve the final prototype." Logan nodded absently, his attention caught by a notification on his tablet. His assistant, Olivia Winters, had flagged an incoming patient file with the highest priority marker, something she rarely did. "Excuse me," he said to Ethan, opening the file. The patient information appeared on screen. Noah Matthews, age 10. Diagnosis: congenital ventricular septal anomaly with pulmonary hypertension. Recommended treatment: immediate surgical intervention. Logan froze, his practiced professional detachment crumbling as he registered the patient's full name. Noah Alexander Matthews. Mother: Avery Elizabeth Matthews. "Logan." Ethan's voice seemed to come from far away. "Everything all right?" "I need a moment," Logan said, rising from his chair with uncharacteristic abruptness. "We'll continue this later." In his private office, Logan stared out at the city skyline, the file still open on his tablet. One of Avery's sons, one of his sons, biologically speaking, though he'd signed away all parental rights during the divorce, needed the very procedure he had pioneered. The irony was almost too perfect. 5 years ago, he had walked away from Avery and their 3 infant sons, convinced he was making the only rational choice. His career was ascending meteorically. Her legal practice was just beginning to gain traction. They wanted different things. He was focused on medical innovation that required constant travel and 16-hour workdays. She wanted a partner present for family dinners and bedtime stories. The arguments had grown increasingly bitter until the final, devastating night when Avery had confronted him with a truth he couldn't face. "You're brilliant with patients but can't connect with your own children. They need a father, not a distant benefactor who sends gifts from medical conferences." His response had been cold, calculated to wound. "I never wanted children. I agreed because it was important to you, but this domestic life is suffocating everything I've worked for." The divorce had been swift and clinical. Logan had provided generous financial support but relinquished all parental rights, telling himself it was better this way. The boys would have stability with Avery. He would change the world through medicine. Everyone would benefit more from this arrangement. He had almost convinced himself it was true. Now, staring at Noah's medical file, the carefully constructed justifications of the past 5 years began to crumble. The boy needed him, not as a father, but as the surgeon he had become. The very career he had chosen over fatherhood was now the only thing that could save his son's life. Logan pressed the intercom. "Olivia, clear my schedule for the rest of the day, and find out which hospital Noah Matthews has been admitted to." Avery arrived home to find Mia Lawson waiting on her porch, 2 cups of coffee in hand. One look at Avery's face told Mia everything she needed to know. "That bad?" Mia asked, handing over a cup. "Worse," Avery replied, unlocking the door. Inside, she collapsed onto the sofa, the weight of the day finally overwhelming her. "Noah needs heart surgery." Specialized surgery that only one person can perform right now. Mia sat beside her, concern etched on her face. Who? Logan. The single word hung in the air between them. Mia had been there through everything, the whirlwind romance, the difficult pregnancy, the joyful but exhausting early days with triplet infants, and the devastating collapse of Avery's marriage when the boys were barely a year old. Oh, Avery, Mia whispered. What are you going to do? What choice do I have? Avery's voice cracked. Noah needs this surgery. If Logan is the only one who can perform it. She trailed off, unable to complete the thought. Have you contacted him? Not yet. Dr. Bennett said he would forward Noah's case, but I don't know if Logan will even take it. He walked away from us so completely, Mia. Signed away his rights without hesitation. But he's still a doctor, Mia reasoned. Whatever else he is, he took an oath to help people. People, yes, but us? After everything. Avery shook her head. I don't know. The sound of a car pulling up interrupted their conversation. Through the window, Avery saw the school district van dropping off Carter and Mason. Watching her sons race up the walkway, identical in appearance but so different in personality, Avery felt a renewed surge of determination. For them, for all three of her boys, she would face whatever came next, including Logan Pierce. The boys burst through the door, their energy filling the quiet house instantly. Mom, Coach says I'm starting as forward next game, Mason announced, dropping his backpack in the middle of the floor. That's wonderful, sweetheart, Avery managed, trying to sound normal. And Carter, how was your science presentation? I got an A, Carter replied more quietly, his observant eyes already noting his mother's red-rimmed eyes. Mom, what's wrong? Is it Noah? Avery's heart clenched. Carter had always been the most perceptive of her sons, sensitive to the emotional undercurrents around him. She patted the sofa beside her. Come sit, both of you. We need to talk about Noah. As gently as possible, Avery explained that their brother had a heart condition requiring surgery. She carefully omitted Logan's involvement, not yet ready to explain that complication. But he'll be okay, right? Mason asked, his usual confidence faltering. The doctors are very hopeful, Avery assured him, pulling both boys close. Noah is strong, just like you two. Can we see him? Carter asked. Tomorrow after school. He needs rest tonight. After getting the boys settled with dinner and homework, Avery retreated to her bedroom, closing the door before pulling out her phone. She stared at it for long minutes, gathering her courage before finally making the call she'd been dreading. Dr. Bennett? It's Avery Matthews. I've made my decision. Please tell Dr. Pierce that I'm accepting his expertise for Noah's surgery. The next morning, tension radiated through the pediatric cardiology department at Metropolitan Children's Hospital. Nurse Jasmine Rodriguez had worked there for 15 years and thought she'd seen everything. But the news that Dr. Logan Pierce, was coming to evaluate a patient personally had created unprecedented buzz. Is it true? She asked Dr. Bennett as they prepared the conference room. Dr. Pierce is actually coming here? Yes, though I'm not sure it's a good idea, Dr. Bennett replied, straightening chairs unnecessarily. There's history with this patient's family. Before Jasmine could inquire further, the department doors swung open, and Logan Pierce strode in, accompanied by his assistant, Olivia Winters. Even in a hospital full of distinguished physicians, Logan's presence commanded attention. Tall and imposing in an impeccably tailored suit, he carried himself with the confidence of someone accustomed to being the most important person in any room. Dr. Bennett, Logan acknowledged with a curt nod. I'd like to examine Noah Matthews immediately, and then meet with his mother to discuss surgical options. Of course, Dr. Pierce. But I should warn you, I'm fully aware of the situation. Logan cut him off. I've reviewed the file thoroughly. This is a medical matter, and I'll treat it as such. Dr. Bennett looked unconvinced but nodded. Ms. Matthews is with Noah now. She's been informed of your arrival. In Noah's hospital room, Avery sat beside her son's bed, helping him with a puzzle. Despite the monitors and 4 lines, Noah maintained the cheerful resilience that had always distinguished him from his brothers. Where Carter was thoughtful and Mason was bold, Noah was the peacemaker, the one who found silver linings in every situation. "Mom, you're not even trying," Noah complained good-naturedly as Avery absently handed him puzzle pieces. "Sorry, sweetheart. Just thinking. About the doctor who's coming to see me? The one who can fix my heart." Avery's own heart clenched. "Yes. How did you know about that?" Noah shrugged. "I heard the nurses talking. They said he's super famous and super rich and hardly ever does surgeries anymore because he's too busy inventing stuff. But he's coming just for me." He looked up, his eyes so like Logan's, bright with curiosity. "Why would he do that?" Before Avery could formulate an answer, the door opened. Time seemed to slow as Logan stepped into the room, his gaze moving first to Noah, then to Avery. If you've ever had to face someone who broke your heart for the sake of someone you love, hit that subscribe button. And stay with me to discover what happens when a mother's fierce protection collides with a father's long-buried regrets, and a child's life hangs in the balance. 5 years had changed them both. Logan's dark hair was now threaded with silver at the temples. New lines marked the corners of his eyes. He looked more distinguished, more remote. A man who had achieved everything he'd ever wanted professionally. Avery had changed too. Gone was the young lawyer trying to balance a new career with motherhood. In her place stood a woman who had raised 3 boys alone, who had rebuilt her life piece by piece, who had learned to be both mother and father to children who occasionally asked about the man in the single photograph she kept tucked away. For a moment, neither spoke. The weight of their shared past and separate presence filled the space between them. Then Noah, oblivious to the undercurrents, broke the silence. "Are you the heart doctor? The one who can fix me?" Logan's expression softened almost imperceptibly as he turned to the boy. "Yes, I'm Dr. Pierce. And you must be Noah." "Aha. Mom says my heart has a hole that shouldn't be there. Can you really fix it?" "I believe I can," Logan replied, his professional demeanor returning as he moved to examine the monitors. "But first, I need to run some tests and talk with your mother about the procedure." "Okay, but can you make it quick? I have a soccer tournament next month, and I really don't want to miss it." A ghost of a smile touched Logan's lips. "I'll do my best." Avery watched the interaction with a complex mixture of emotions. This was the father her sons had never known, brilliant, focused, capable of extraordinary things. And yet, seeing him with Noah only highlighted everything they had lost when Logan chose his career over their family. "Noah, Dr. Bennett mentioned wanting to show you the new game room they've set up for patients," Avery said, needing a moment alone with Logan. "Why don't you see if Nurse Rodriguez can take you there while Dr. Pierce and I talk?" Once Noah had left with the nurse, the pretense of professional detachment evaporated. Avery faced Logan directly, her voice low but steady. "I never thought I'd see you again. Certainly not like this." "Neither did I," Logan admitted. "But here we are. Will you take his case?" "Of course. Whatever happened between us, Noah needs the surgery, and I'm the best person to perform it." Avery nodded, relief and apprehension battling within her. "Thank you. But I need to know something first." "What? Why did you come yourself? You could have sent another surgeon from your team, someone you've trained." "Why are you here, Logan?" The question hung between them, laden with 5 years of silence and separation. Logan's expression remained carefully controlled, but something flickered in his eyes, regret, perhaps, or a recognition of all that had been lost. "Because he's my son," Logan said finally, the words seeming to surprise even him. "Biologically, legally, practically, none of that matters right now. He needs help that I can provide. That's reason enough." It wasn't the whole truth. They both knew it, but it was enough for now. Enough to begin the delicate process of saving their son's life, even as they navigated the wreckage of their past. "I need you to understand something," Avery said, her voice hardening. "I'm grateful for your medical expertise, but this doesn't change anything between us. The boys don't know who you are. To them, you're just a doctor. I'm not here to disrupt your lives, Avery. I'm here to perform a surgery." Good. Because they've been through enough without adding confusion about a father who chose not to be in their lives. Logan's jaw tightened. Is that what you tell them? That I chose to leave? I tell them the truth, that we wanted different things. That you weren't ready to be a father. Avery crossed her arms. What would you prefer I say? That their father valued his career more than his family? That he found us inconvenient? That's not fair. Isn't it? Avery's voice cracked slightly. You signed away your rights without a second thought, Logan. You made your choice very clear. Before Logan could respond, the door opened and Dr. Bennett entered with a tablet in hand. I have Noah's latest test results, Dr. Pierce. The tension in the room was palpable, but both Avery and Logan shifted immediately into more professional modes. Logan reviewed the results, his brow furrowing. The septal defect is more complex than the initial scans indicated, he said, more to himself than to the others. We'll need to schedule surgery within the next 72 hours. That soon? Avery asked, alarm evident in her voice. Logan nodded grimly. The pulmonary hypertension is progressing faster than expected. If we wait longer, the damage could become irreversible. What are his chances? Avery asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Logan met her gaze directly. With a standard surgeon? About 60%. With me? Over 90. I've performed this specific procedure 17 times with 16 successful outcomes. And the one that wasn't successful? A shadow crossed Logan's face. Different circumstances. The patient had additional complications that Noah doesn't have. Dr. Bennett cleared his throat. I'll begin making arrangements for the OR. We'll need to prep Noah tomorrow and perform the surgery the following morning. After he left, Avery sank into the chair beside Noah's empty bed. I need to tell Carter and Mason. They're coming to visit this afternoon. All three of you should stay at the hospital tonight, Logan said. I want Noah under constant observation, and it would be good for him to have his family close. His brothers, Avery corrected pointedly. They're his family. Logan accepted the barb without comment. I'll have Olivia arrange for a private family suite. It will be more comfortable than standard accommodations. We don't need your money, Logan. We've managed just fine without it for 5 years. This isn't about money, Avery. It's about providing the best care for Noah. Logan's voice remained even, but his eyes flashed with frustration. Can we set aside our personal issues long enough to focus on what he needs? Avery wanted to argue further, to reject anything that felt like charity from the man who had abandoned them. But Noah's needs had to come first. Fine. Thank you for the suite. I'll be back this evening to discuss the procedure in detail and answer any questions you might have. Logan moved toward the door, then paused. The boys? Are they all healthy? Yes. Noah's condition was a complete surprise. Carter and Mason have already been scheduled for cardiac screenings as a precaution. Logan nodded, relief evident in his expression. Good. That's good. He hesitated again. They look like you. Noah has your eyes, Avery said softly, the admission slipping out before she could stop it. And Carter has your analytical mind. Mason is pure energy. That must come from my side. A ghost of a smile touched Logan's lips. I remember your energy very well. The comment hung between them, a reminder of happier times that felt like another lifetime. Before Avery could respond, Logan was gone, the door closing quietly behind him. That afternoon, Carter and Mason burst into Noah's hospital room with the controlled chaos that always accompanied them. Though identical in appearance, their personalities couldn't have been more different. Carter carried a book on human anatomy, clearly prepared to understand every aspect of his brother's condition, while Mason brought a soccer ball that he immediately began bouncing on his knee. Mason, no ball in the hospital, Avery admonished, though she couldn't help smiling at her son's irrepressible spirit. But Noah needs to practice, Mason protested. He can't get rusty before the tournament. I think I'm allowed to get a little rusty when my heart is broken, Noah replied with his characteristic dry humor. It's not broken, Carter corrected, opening his book. You have a ventricular septal defect, which means there's an abnormal opening in the wall separating the lower chambers of your heart. It's actually fascinating from a medical perspective. Only you would think my defective heart is fascinating. Noah groaned, but he was smiling. Avery watched her sons interact with a surge of love so powerful it nearly took her breath away. They had always been like this, three parts of a whole, different yet perfectly balanced. Carter the thinker, Mason the doer, and Noah the mediator who kept them all connected. "Boys," she said, sitting on the edge of Noah's bed. "There's something I need to tell you about Noah's surgery." Three identical faces turned toward her, and for a moment, Avery faltered. How much should she reveal? How could she explain Logan's presence without opening wounds that had never fully healed? "The doctor who's going to fix Noah's heart is very special," she began carefully. "He's one of the best in the world at this particular surgery." "Is that why all the nurses are acting weird?" Mason asked. "One of them asked me for an autograph, which was cool but super random." "Dr. Pierce is very well known," Avery acknowledged. "And there's something else you should know." She took a deep breath. "He and I knew each other a long time ago." Carter's perceptive eyes narrowed. Knew each other how? Before Avery could formulate an answer, the door opened and Logan stepped in, stopping short at the sight of all three boys together. For a moment, he seemed unable to speak, his carefully maintained composure slipping as he took in the three identical faces, faces that carried echoes of his own. "Dr. Pierce," Avery said, rising quickly. "These are Noah's brothers, Carter and Mason." "Hello," Logan said, his voice uncharacteristically soft. "It's good to meet you both. Are you really going to cut open Noah's heart?" Mason asked bluntly. "Mason," Avery exclaimed. "It's a fair question," Logan replied, his professional demeanor returning. "And yes, I will be performing open heart surgery to repair the hole in Noah's heart. But I've done this many times before, and Noah is strong and healthy otherwise, which gives him excellent odds for a full recovery." "What's the exact procedure you'll be using?" Carter asked, holding up his anatomy book. "I've been reading about different surgical approaches." A flicker of surprise crossed Logan's face, followed by something that looked almost like pride. "It's called a modified Warden procedure. Would you like me to explain how it works?" Carter nodded eagerly, and to Avery's astonishment, Logan pulled up a chair and began explaining the surgery in detail, using terms that respected Carter's intelligence while remaining accessible. Mason quickly lost interest and returned to quietly bouncing his ball in the corner, but Noah and Carter remained rapt. "So you'll use a patch made from my own tissue?" Noah asked. "Exactly. That reduces the risk of rejection and allows for better integration as you grow." "And how long until I can play soccer again?" Noah asked the question that clearly mattered most to him. "If all goes well, you could be back on the field in 3 to 4 months. But the championship is in 6 weeks, Noah protested. "There will be other championships," Logan said gently. "Right now, we need to focus on getting your heart working properly so you can play for many years to come." Watching Logan interact with her sons, Avery felt a confusing mix of emotions. This was the father they should have had, patient, engaged, speaking to them as individuals rather than as a collective responsibility. Where was this man 5 years ago, when 3 crying infants had needed midnight feedings and diaper changes? "Dr. Pierce needs to review some things with me," Avery said, needing a break from the painful thoughts. "Boys, why don't you check out that game room Noah was telling you about?" After the boys left, chattering excitedly about the rumored virtual reality system, Avery turned to Logan. "You're good with them. They're remarkable children," Logan replied. "You've done an amazing job, Avery." "Don't," she said sharply. "Don't compliment my parenting as if you had nothing to do with who they are. I wasn't trying to. They're half you, Logan." Carter's analytical mind, Noah's quiet determination. "Those are your traits. Every day I see you in them, and every day I have to reconcile that with the fact that you chose not to be part of their lives." Logan's expression hardened. "You make it sound so simple." As if I just decided one day that I didn't want to be bothered. Isn't that exactly what happened? This domestic life is suffocating everything I've worked for. Those were your exact words. I was wrong, Logan said quietly. I was wrong about many things. The admission hung in the air between them, unexpected and disarming. Before Avery could respond, Logan continued. But that doesn't change the reality we're in now. I made my choice 5 years ago, and you've built a life without me. Reopening old wounds won't help Noah. Then let's focus on the surgery, Avery said, retreating to safer ground. Walk me through exactly what will happen tomorrow. As Logan detailed the surgical procedure, Avery tried to concentrate on the medical information rather than the man delivering it. But it was impossible to separate the brilliant surgeon from the husband who had broken her heart, the father who had walked away from his sons. The surgery will take approximately 6 hours, Logan concluded. You'll be able to see Noah briefly before we begin, and I'll come find you immediately afterward with an update. I want to be there when he wakes up, Avery insisted. Of course. I wouldn't have it any other way. An awkward silence fell between them, filled with all the things they weren't saying. Finally, Logan spoke again. Avery, there's something else you should know. This procedure, it carries risks beyond those I've outlined. Avery's heart rate quickened. What risks? Noah's particular defect is situated near a critical conduction pathway. If something goes wrong, if the repair affects that pathway, what are you saying? I'm saying that in the worst-case scenario, Noah could require a permanent pacemaker. Logan's expression was grave. I don't anticipate that outcome. The chances are less than 5%. But you deserve to know all possibilities. Avery felt the room spin slightly. A pacemaker? For the rest of his life. It would allow him to live normally, even play sports eventually. But yes, it would be permanent. The weight of this new information settled heavily on Avery's shoulders. Does Noah know this possibility? Not yet. I wanted to discuss it with you first. Thank you for that, at least. Avery took a deep breath, steadying herself. We should tell him together. He deserves to understand everything before tomorrow. Logan nodded in agreement. He's a brave kid. Reminds me of you. He reminds me of you, Avery countered softly. The way you were before everything changed. Their eyes met, and for a brief moment, the years and hurt between them seemed to fade. Then Avery looked away, breaking the connection. I should find the boys. It's getting late, and Noah needs rest before tomorrow. Of course, I'll have Olivia show you to the family suite when you're ready. As Logan turned to leave, Avery called after him. Logan! He paused at the door, looking back. Thank you for coming, for being the one to do this. A shadow of something regret, perhaps, or longing crossed his face. I wouldn't be anywhere else, Avery. Not for this. After he left, Avery remained alone in Noah's room, trying to process the whirlwind of emotions the day had brought. Tomorrow, the man who had walked away from their family would hold their son's heart in his hands. The irony wasn't lost on her. Logan had broken her heart, and now he was the only one who could fix Noah's. If you've ever had to trust someone who hurt you because you had no other choice, hit that like button. And stay with me to see what happens when the surgery reveals complications that no one expected, forcing both Avery and Logan to confront the truth they've been avoiding for 5 long years. The morning of Noah's surgery dawned with a tense quiet that seemed to blanket the entire hospital. Avery had barely slept, spending most of the night watching her 3 sons, Carter and Mason, curled up on the pull-out sofa in the family suite, and Noah in his hospital bed, monitors beeping steadily beside him. How had they reached this point? 5 years of carefully rebuilding her life, of creating stability for her boys, of learning to exist without Logan, and now here they were, their lives once again intertwined in the most critical of ways. At 5:30 a.m., a soft knock at the door announced the arrival of the pre-surgical team. Nurse Rodriguez entered with a warm smile that did little to mask the seriousness of the day ahead. "Good morning, Matthew's family," she said softly. "It's time to start getting Noah ready." Avery gently woke her sons, her heart breaking at the fear that immediately filled Noah's eyes despite his brave attempt to hide it. "Is it time already?" he asked, his voice small. "Yes, sweetheart. The doctors need to get you prepared." Avery smoothed his hair back from his forehead, a gesture she'd done since he was an infant. "Carter and Mason will be right here waiting with me. And we brought you something," Carter said, pulling a small object from his pocket. It was a tiny wooden heart, intricately carved. "I made it in woodshop. It's for luck. And I got the whole soccer team to sign this," Mason added, producing a team jersey covered in signatures. "Coach says we're all playing for you today." Noah's eyes filled with tears as he clutched both gifts. "Thanks, guys." The brothers shared a look that communicated more than words ever could. The special connection of triplets that Avery had always found both beautiful and slightly mysterious. "All right, time for your brothers to say goodbye for now," Nurse Rodriguez said gently. "They can see you again after the surgery." Carter and Mason each hugged their brother fiercely, trying to be strong but unable to hide their worry completely. "Don't worry," Noah told them with a weak smile. "Dr. Pierce said I'm getting a cool scar. Girls like scars, right?" "Definitely," Mason assured him with forced enthusiasm. "Total chick magnet." After the boys stepped back, Avery leaned down to embrace her son, breathing in his familiar scent, trying to memorize everything about this moment. "I love you so much," she whispered. "More than all the stars in the sky." "Love you too, Mom," Noah whispered back, their special saying since he was tiny. "To infinity and beyond." As the nurses began wheeling Noah toward the surgical floor, Avery and the twins followed as far as they were allowed. At the final set of doors, they had to stop, watching as Noah was taken away, looking suddenly small and vulnerable on the hospital gurney. "Ms. Matthews." Avery turned to find Logan approaching, already dressed in surgical scrubs, his face serious but calm. "Could I have a word before we begin?" Avery nodded, turning to her sons. "Boys, why don't you go get some breakfast in the cafeteria? I'll meet you there in a few minutes." After they reluctantly departed, Avery faced Logan. "Is something wrong? Has something changed with Noah's condition?" "No, nothing's changed," Logan assured her. He hesitated, seeming uncharacteristically uncertain. "I wanted you to know that I understand what I'm holding in my hands today. Not just Noah's heart, but your heart too. All three of your hearts." Avery swallowed hard against the sudden tightness in her throat. "Logan, please let me finish. I know I have no right to ask anything of you, but I need you to believe one thing. In that operating room, Noah will receive the absolute best of everything I have to give. Every skill, every bit of knowledge, every ounce of focus and determination. I will fix his heart as if my own life depends on it." The intensity in his eyes took Avery back to the early days of their relationship, when Logan's passion for medicine had been one of the things she loved most about him, before ambition had twisted that passion into something colder and more distant. "I believe you," she said softly. "I never doubted your surgical skills, Logan. That was never our problem." A shadow crossed his face. "No, it wasn't." He glanced at his watch. "I need to go. The team is waiting." "Logan," Avery called as he turned to leave. "He likes to hear music when he's nervous. Classical, especially cello pieces." Logan's expression softened. "I remember. You used to play Bach for the boys before they were even born." The shared memory hung between them, a reminder of a time when they had been not just lovers but partners, preparing together for the arrival of their sons. "I'll make sure they play Bach in the OR before the anesthesia," Logan promised. "He won't be afraid, Avery. I'll make sure of it." As Logan disappeared through the same doors that had taken Noah, Avery found herself whispering a prayer, not just for her son's heart, but for the hands that would be mending it. The waiting room of the cardiac surgical unit was designed to be comforting, with soft lighting, comfortable furniture, and calming artwork on the walls. None of it helped. To Avery, it felt like a beautifully decorated prison, a place where time stretched endlessly as she waited for news that would either restore her world or shatter it completely. Mia arrived shortly after the surgery began, armed with coffee, snacks, and the steady presence that had helped Avery through countless difficult moments. "Any updates?" she asked, handing Avery a cup of much-needed caffeine. "Nothing yet. They said the initial preparation and anesthesia would take about an hour, and then the actual surgery around 5 hours. Avery checked her watch for what felt like the 100th time. "They've been in there for 90 minutes now. That's good, right? Everything proceeding as planned." "I suppose." Avery glanced over at Carter and Mason, who were attempting to distract themselves with a board game but clearly struggling to focus. "The boys are trying so hard to be brave. They take after their mother," Mia said, squeezing Avery's hand. "All three of them do. I keep thinking about what would have happened if Noah hadn't collapsed during that game. If his condition had remained undetected until—" Avery couldn't finish the thought. "But it didn't," Mia reminded her firmly. "He did collapse, it was detected, and now the best cardiac surgeon in the country is fixing it." "The best surgeon who happens to be their father," Avery said quietly, ensuring the boys couldn't overhear. "Who happens to be the man who walked away from us without a backward glance. How is that for cosmic irony? Life has a strange way of bringing people back together," Mia observed. "Though I have to admit, this is more dramatic than most reunion scenarios." "This isn't a reunion," Avery insisted. "It's a medical necessity. Once Noah recovers, Logan will go back to his brilliant career and billion-dollar company, and we'll go back to our lives." Mia studied her friend's face carefully. "Is that what you want?" "What I want doesn't matter. It's what's best for the boys." "And what is best for them?" "Never knowing their father." Avery's expression hardened. They had a father who chose not to be in their lives. How is reopening that wound best for them? Before Mia could respond, the waiting room door opened and Olivia Winters, Logan's assistant, entered. Tall, elegant, and perpetually composed, she approached Avery with a professional smile. "Ms. Matthews, Dr. Pierce asked me to provide you with an update. They've successfully begun the repair procedure. Noah's vital signs are stable, and everything is proceeding as expected." Relief washed over Avery. "Thank you. When will we hear more?" "Dr. Pierce will send updates approximately every hour. I'll be personally delivering them." Olivia hesitated, then added in a softer tone. "He also wanted me to tell you that they're playing Bach's Cello Suite No. 1, and that Noah seemed to relax when he heard it before the anesthesia took effect." The thoughtfulness of this detail, that Logan had remembered and honored her suggestion, caught Avery off guard. "Thank you for letting me know." After Olivia departed, Mia raised an eyebrow. "That's his assistant? She looks like she stepped off a runway." "Olivia's been with him for years," Avery said, remembering the woman from the early days of her marriage to Logan. "She's brilliant, actually. Has degrees in both business and biomedical engineering. Logan poached her from some tech company. And you're not at all bothered by the fact that she looks like that while spending every day with your ex?" Avery gave a tired laugh. Logan wouldn't notice if Olivia showed up to work in a ball gown or a potato sack. He only sees the work, never the person doing it. That was part of our problem. The hours crawled by, marked by Olivia's regular appearances with updates that were consistently positive but frustratingly brief. By the 4th hour, Avery was pacing the waiting room, unable to sit still any longer. "Mom, you're making me dizzy," Mason complained from where he was sprawled across 2 chairs. "Sorry, sweetheart. I just need to move." "Noah's going to be fine," Carter said with quiet confidence. "Dr. Pierce is the best. I looked up all his research papers last night." Avery smiled at her son's methodical approach to managing anxiety, so like Logan in his need to gather and analyze information. "When did you have time to read research papers?" "After you fell asleep. I couldn't sleep anyway, so I borrowed your tablet." Carter pushed his glasses up his nose. "Did you know Dr. Pierce pioneered 3 different cardiac procedures? The one he's using on Noah has a 94% success rate. That's really good, right?" Mason asked, looking to his brother for reassurance. "It's excellent," Carter confirmed. "Most complex cardiac procedures have success rates in the 70 to 80% range. Avery marveled at her son's ability to find comfort in statistics and facts. It was a coping mechanism she recognized all too well from her years with Logan. Just as she was about to suggest they all take a walk to stretch their legs, the waiting room door opened again. But this time, instead of Olivia, it was Logan himself who entered, still in surgical scrubs, his face grave. Avery's heart plummeted. It was too soon. The surgery should have taken at least another hour. "Logan?" she whispered, fear making her voice shake. "What's happened?" Logan's eyes met hers, and in that moment, all the professional distance he maintained vanished. "We've encountered a complication, Avery. I need to speak with you privately." The world seemed to tilt beneath her feet. Mia was instantly at her side, a steadying presence. "I'll stay with the boys," she murmured. "Go." Logan led Avery to a small consultation room adjacent to the waiting area. As soon as the door closed behind them, Avery gripped the back of a chair, her knuckles white. "Tell me," she demanded. "Tell me everything." "The defect is more extensive than the imaging showed," Logan explained, his voice calm but urgent. "It involves the conduction pathway to a greater degree than we anticipated. I've stabilized the situation, but I need to make a decision about how to proceed, and I need to make it quickly. What are the options?" Option 1 is to continue with the planned repair, which carries a significant risk of damaging the conduction pathway. If that happens, Noah will definitely need a permanent pacemaker. Avery's breath caught. "And option 2? I attempt a more complex repair that I've been developing. It would preserve the conduction pathway and eliminate the need for a pacemaker, but it's experimental. I've performed it successfully in 3 cases, but it's not yet the standard approach." "What are the risks of this experimental approach?" Logan met her gaze directly. "If it fails, the damage could be more extensive, potentially affecting heart function beyond what a pacemaker could fully correct." Avery felt as though she might collapse. "You're asking me to choose between a guaranteed limitation and a risk to his life?" "I'm asking you to trust me," Logan said quietly. "As a surgeon, not as anything else. I believe I can perform the more complex repair successfully. I wouldn't suggest it otherwise. And if you're wrong, then I will spend the rest of my life developing whatever technology Noah needs to live a full and normal life. I swear to you, Avery." The intensity in his eyes took her back to another hospital room, 10 years earlier, when Logan had promised to love her forever as they gazed at the ultrasound showing not 1, but 3 tiny heartbeats. He had broken that promise, walking away when the reality of fatherhood proved more challenging than he'd anticipated. But this was different. This wasn't about their relationship or Logan's commitment to fatherhood. This was about his commitment to medicine, to healing, the one thing he had never wavered on. "Do it," Avery said firmly. "Do the experimental procedure." Relief washed over Logan's face. "Thank you for trusting me. I won't let you down." "Don't thank me," Avery replied. "Just save our son." Logan nodded once, then turned to leave. At the door, he paused. "There's something else you should know. Noah woke up briefly during a transition in anesthesia. It happens sometimes, just for a few seconds." "Was he afraid? In pain?" "No, nothing like that. He was groggy, barely conscious. But he looked at me and said something." Logan's voice softened. "He called me Dad." Avery felt as though the air had been knocked from her lungs. "He doesn't know. We never told him." "I know. It was just confusion from the anesthesia. But I thought you should know." With that, Logan was gone, hurrying back to the operating room where their son's heart lay open, waiting to be healed. Avery remained in the consultation room for several minutes, trying to compose herself before facing Carter and Mason. The weight of the decision she just made pressed down on her, along with the implications of Noah's anesthetic-induced recognition. Had some part of Noah always known? Had he somehow sensed the connection to Logan, despite never being told the identity of his biological father? When she finally returned to the waiting room, Mia took one look at her face and immediately came to her side. "What happened?" she asked quietly, leading Avery away from where the boys were engrossed in a video game. Avery explained the situation in hushed tones, the complicated repair, the risks, and her decision to trust Logan's experimental approach. "You made the right choice," Mia assured her. "If anyone can pull this off, it's Logan." "That's what terrifies me," Avery admitted. "After all these years of learning to live without him, suddenly everything depends on him again." The next 3 hours were the longest of Avery's life. Each minute stretched endlessly as she imagined what was happening in the operating room, Logan's hands inside their son's chest, making repairs so delicate that a millimeter's difference could change Noah's life forever. Carter eventually fell asleep, his glasses askew on his face, while Mason continued to fidget restlessly, unable to settle. Mia maintained a steady stream of coffee and quiet support, never leaving Avery's side. Finally, just as the waiting room clock ticked past the 8-hour mark, the door opened. Logan stood there, surgical cap in hand, exhaustion evident in every line of his body. For one terrible moment, Avery couldn't read his expression. Then he smiled, a genuine, unreserved smile that transformed his face. The repair was successful. No pacemaker needed. Noah's heart is beating strongly on its own. The room erupted in celebration. Mason whooped loudly, startling Carter awake. Mia burst into tears of relief. And Avery simply stared at Logan, unable to find words for the gratitude that overwhelmed her. "Can we see him?" she finally managed to ask. "He's in recovery now. Once he's stabilized, they'll move him to the ICU. You can see him briefly then, though he'll still be heavily sedated." Logan ran a hand through his hair, a rare gesture of fatigue. "The next 24 hours are critical, but all signs are extremely positive." "Thank you," Avery whispered, the words wholly inadequate for what she felt. "Logan, thank you." Something shifted in Logan's eyes, a vulnerability she hadn't seen in years. "Don't thank me yet. Thank me when he's playing soccer again." As Logan turned to leave, Mason called out, "Dr. Pierce, will Noah really have a cool scar?" Logan paused, looking back at the boy who was his son in every biological sense, though he had forfeited the right to claim him. "The coolest. But don't worry, it will fade with time." "Bummer," Mason replied with genuine disappointment. "Scars are awesome." A tired smile touched Logan's lips. "I'll see what I can do." After Logan left, the atmosphere in the waiting room transformed from tense anxiety to exhausted relief. Carter and Mason, finally allowing themselves to feel the strain of the day, curled up together on the small sofa and promptly fell asleep, their identical faces peaceful for the first time in days. "You should rest too," Mia urged Avery. "I'll wake you when they move Noah to the ICU." "I can't sleep," Avery said, though her body ached with fatigue. "Not until I see him." "He's going to be fine, Avery. Logan did it." "Yes?" Avery whispered, staring at the door through which Logan had disappeared. "He did." 2 hours later, Nurse Rodriguez came to escort them to the pediatric ICU where Noah had been transferred. The unit was quiet, the lighting dim, with the steady beeping of monitors creating a rhythmic backdrop. "Only 2 visitors at a time," the nurse explained gently, "and just for a few minutes. He needs rest more than anything now." "Boys, let me go first," Avery said. "Then you can each have a turn." Carter and Mason nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation despite their youth. Avery followed Nurse Rodriguez to Noah's bedside, her heart constricting at the sight of her son. He looked impossibly small amid the medical equipment, his skin pale against the white hospital sheets, a thick bandage visible at the top of his hospital gown. "Oh, Noah," she whispered, carefully taking his hand, mindful of the 4-line. "He's doing remarkably well," Nurse Rodriguez assured her. "Dr. Pierce performed an extraordinary repair. Our chief of cardiology said he's never seen anything like it." Avery nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. She simply stood there, holding her son's hand, watching the steady rise and fall of his chest, each breath a miracle after the day they'd endured. After a few minutes, she reluctantly stepped away to allow Carter and Mason their turns. Each boy approached their brother with uncharacteristic solemnity, Mason whispering something that made Nurse Rodriguez smile, while Carter simply stood in silent observation, his analytical mind no doubt processing every tube and monitor. As they prepared to leave, Avery noticed a figure standing in the shadows at the far end of the ICU. Logan was watching them, his expression unreadable in the dim light. Their eyes met briefly across the room before he turned and walked away, disappearing through a staff door. The next 3 days passed in a blur of medical updates, brief visits to the ICU, and catnaps on uncomfortable waiting room furniture. Noah's recovery progressed steadily, each day bringing small but significant improvements. By the 4th day, he was moved to a regular room, alert enough to complain about the hospital food and ask when he could go home. Avery had just settled the twins at school and was heading to the hospital for her morning visit when her phone rang with an unfamiliar number. "Ms. Matthews? This is Olivia Winters, Dr. Pierce's assistant. Is something wrong with Noah?" Avery asked immediately, her heart rate spiking. "No, nothing's wrong. In fact, his recovery continues to exceed expectations," Olivia assured her. "Dr. Pierce would like to meet with you this morning to discuss Noah's ongoing care plan. Would 10 a.m. work for you?" "Yes, that's fine. I'm on my way to the hospital now." "Excellent. Dr. Pierce will meet you in Noah's room." When Avery arrived, she found Noah sitting up in bed, engrossed in a handheld game that she didn't recognize. "Where did you get that?" she asked, setting down her bag and kissing his forehead. "Dr. Pierce brought it," Noah replied without looking up. "It's the new VR system that isn't even in stores yet. He said it's important for my recovery to keep my mind active while my body heals." Avery bit back a comment about expensive gifts. If a gaming system helped Noah through his recovery, she wouldn't complain. "How are you feeling today?" "Better. The nurse said I might get to walk around the room later." "That's wonderful progress." Avery sat on the edge of the bed, studying her son's face. Some color had returned to his cheeks, and the spark was back in his eyes. Those eyes so like Logan's. "Noah, can I ask you something?" He mumbled, still focused on his game. "What do you think of Dr. Pierce?" This question finally drew Noah's attention away from the screen. "He's cool. Not like most doctors who talk to you like you're a baby. He explains stuff so I can understand it." Noah paused, considering. "And he fixed my heart when nobody else could. That's pretty awesome." "Yes, it is," Avery agreed softly. "Mom." Noah's expression turned serious. "Can I ask you something now?" "Of course, sweetheart. Anything. Is Dr. Pierce my dad?" The question hit Avery like a physical blow. She stared at her son, momentarily speechless. Why would you ask that?" Noah shrugged, trying to appear casual though his eyes were intent. "I heard some nurses talking. They didn't know I was awake. And then I started noticing stuff like how he has the same eyes as me, and how he looks at you and Carter and Mason sometimes when he thinks no one's watching." Avery took a deep breath, her mind racing. She had always planned to tell the boys about their father when they were older, when they could better understand the complicated choices adults sometimes make. But now, faced with Noah's direct question, she couldn't bring herself to lie. "Yes," she said finally, "Dr. Pierce is your biological father. He's the father of all 3 of you." Noah absorbed this information with remarkable composure. "I thought so. That's why he came to do my surgery himself. Isn't it? Because I'm his son." "That's part of it," Avery acknowledged. "But also because he's the best at this particular surgery. He would have helped you regardless." "Why didn't he stay with us?" Noah asked, the question simple but loaded with complexity. "Didn't he want to be our dad?" Avery chose her words carefully. "It wasn't that simple, Noah. Your father, Dr. Pierce, he's a brilliant doctor who saves many lives. When you boys were born, he had to make a choice between focusing on his work or focusing on being a father. He felt he could do more good in the world as a doctor. So he picked saving strangers over being with us?" The hurt in Noah's voice broke Avery's heart. "People make mistakes, Noah. Even brilliant people like Dr. Pierce. I think he believed he was making the right choice at the time. Do Carter and Mason know? No, not yet. I was planning to tell all of you when you were older. Noah was quiet for a moment, processing. Are you going to tell them now? I think I should. Would you like to be there when I do? Noah nodded, then asked the question Avery had been dreading. Will we see him after I get better? Like, as our dad, not just my doctor. Before Avery could formulate an answer, a knock at the door announced Logan's arrival. He entered the room with a tablet in hand, his professional demeanor firmly in place, until he registered the serious expressions on both their faces. Is everything all right? He asked, looking between them. Noah answered before Avery could. Mom just told me you're my dad. My real dad. Logan froze, his carefully maintained composure slipping. His eyes met Avery's, a silent question in them. Noah figured it out, she explained quietly. He heard the nurses talking. Logan set down his tablet and moved to the chair beside Noah's bed, his movements deliberate, as if giving himself time to think. When he finally spoke, his voice was gentle but direct. Yes, Noah, I am your biological father, and Carter and Mason's as well. But you didn't want to be our dad, Noah said, not as an accusation but as a statement of fact he was trying to understand. Logan flinched slightly. It wasn't about not wanting you. It was about fear. You were afraid of us? Noah asked, confusion evident in his voice. But we were just babies. Not of you, Logan clarified. Of failing you. Of not being the father you deserved. He glanced at Avery, then back to Noah. I made a terrible mistake, one I've regretted every day since. But that doesn't change the fact that your mother has given you an amazing life. One that might have been very different if I had stayed. But you could have been part of it, Noah pointed out with a child's straightforward logic. You could have visited or called or something. Logan had no answer for this, the simple truth cutting through all his sophisticated justifications. You're right, he finally said. I could have. I should have. The admission hung in the air between them, weighty with implications. Avery watched her son process this information, marveling at his emotional maturity. Well, Noah said after a long moment, at least you came when I really needed you. That counts for something, right, Mom? Avery's throat tightened with emotion. Yes, sweetheart. It counts for a lot. Logan cleared his throat, visibly moved by Noah's capacity for forgiveness. I came today to discuss your recovery plan, but perhaps we should talk about this instead. It's more important. Can we do both? Noah asked pragmatically. Because I really want to know when I can play soccer again. A smile touched Logan's lips. We can definitely do both. For the next hour, they navigated an extraordinary conversation, weaving between medical details of Noah's recovery and the more complex territory of their family history. Logan answered Noah's questions with honesty and respect, never sugarcoating his mistakes, but also helping Noah understand the fear that had driven his choices. I thought I had to choose between being a great doctor and being a father, Logan explained. I convinced myself that by focusing entirely on medicine, I could help more people, do more good in the world. But you could have done both, Noah pointed out. Yes, Logan agreed. Many people do. I was wrong to think it had to be one or the other. That's a regret I'll carry forever. As their conversation wound down, Noah's eyelids began to droop, the emotional and physical exertion taking its toll. You need rest, Avery said, adjusting his pillows. We can talk more later. Will you be here when I wake up? Noah asked, his question directed at Logan. If you want me to be, Logan replied carefully, looking to Avery for guidance. I'd like that, Noah murmured, already half asleep, and maybe you could meet Carter and Mason properly. Not as their doctor, but as, I'd like that very much, Logan said softly. If your mother agrees. After Noah drifted off, Avery and Logan stepped into the hallway, both emotionally drained from the unexpected turn of events. I'm sorry, Logan said immediately. I never intended for him to find out this way. It's not your fault, Avery sighed. Kids in hospitals hear everything. I should have been prepared for this possibility. What do you want to do about Carter and Mason? I need to tell them, obviously. Tonight, when they visit. Avery ran a hand through her hair, a gesture of fatigue Logan remembered well from their marriage. I just don't know what happens after that. They'll have questions, expectations. I'll answer any questions they have, Logan promised. As for expectations, that's up to you, Avery. I won't push my way into your lives if you don't want me there. Avery studied the man before her, the father of her children, the brilliant surgeon who had saved their son, the husband who had broken her heart. 5 years had changed them both, perhaps in ways neither fully understood yet. Noah wants you in his life, she said finally, and I won't stand in the way of that. But this has to be on terms that put the boys first. No grand gestures that you can't sustain. No promises you can't keep. I understand, Logan said solemnly. I won't disappoint them again. Or you. That evening, in Noah's hospital room, Avery gathered all 3 of her sons for a conversation that would change their family forever. Carter and Mason listened with wide eyes as she explained that Dr. Pierce was their biological father, that he had been part of their lives when they were infants, and that circumstances had led to his absence since then. So he's really our dad? Mason asked, bouncing slightly on his chair with characteristic energy. Like, the same dad for all 3 of us? Yes, Avery confirmed. You're triplets, identical triplets. You have the same biological mother and father. That's why he looks like us, Carter observed thoughtfully. I noticed the similarity in facial structure and eye color, but I thought it was coincidental. Is he going to live with us now? Mason asked, jumping ahead as usual. No, sweetheart. Dr. Pierce, your father, has his own life and work, but he would like to get to know you all better, if that's something you want. The boys exchanged looks, having one of their silent triplet conversations that Avery had never been able to fully decipher. We want to meet him, Carter said finally, speaking for all 3. Properly, I mean, not as Noah's doctor. He'll be here tomorrow, Avery promised, and we'll take things one step at a time. The following day brought another kind of surgery, the delicate operation of beginning to reconstruct a family that had been fractured for 5 years. Logan arrived not in his usual impeccable suit or surgical scrubs, but in casual clothes, carrying 3 identical gift bags. I thought about bringing one gift for all of you to share, he explained as he distributed them to the boys. But then I realized that while you're triplets, you're also 3 distinct individuals with your own interests and personalities. Inside each bag was a thoughtfully chosen gift that reflected each boy's particular passions. For Carter, an advanced microscope kit. For Mason, premium soccer equipment. And for Noah, a collection of strategy games he could play during his recovery. How did you know what we like? Mason asked, already examining his new cleats with reverence. I asked your mother, Logan admitted, and I may have done some research on my own. You stalked our social media, Carter translated with a knowing look. Logan laughed, a genuine, unguarded sound that Avery hadn't heard in years. Guilty as charged. Your mother's Instagram has been very educational. As the boys explored their gifts, Logan sat with them, answering their questions about his work, his life, and most importantly, about why he had been absent from their lives. He didn't shy away from the difficult truths, but presented them in terms the boys could understand, taking full responsibility for his choices without burdening them with adult complexities. Watching from the corner of the room, Avery felt a strange mixture of emotions. There was still hurt, still anger at what Logan had done. But there was also something new, a cautious hope that perhaps this crisis, this near tragedy, might lead to healing for all of them. 2 weeks later, Noah was discharged from the hospital. As Avery helped him into the car, Carter and Mason already bickering good-naturedly in the back seat. She noticed Logan standing near the hospital entrance, watching them from a distance. Wait here, she told the boys and walked over to him. I wanted to see him leave, Logan explained. It's a big milestone. It is, Avery agreed. The first of many on his road to recovery. I've arranged for the best cardiac rehabilitation specialists to work with him, Logan said. They'll come to your home, so you won't have to manage transportation. Thank you. Avery hesitated, then added, the boys were wondering if you might come for dinner this weekend. Nothing fancy, just a chance to talk more. Something like hope flickered in Logan's eyes. I'd like that very much. This doesn't fix everything, Avery cautioned. There's still a lot of hurt, a lot of trust to rebuild. I know, Logan acknowledged, but it's a start, and I'm grateful for that much. As Avery turned to go, Logan called after her softly. Avery, thank you for giving me a chance I don't deserve. It's not about what you deserve, she replied. It's about what the boys deserve. They deserve to know their father, the real man, not just the absence they've lived with. And what about you? Logan asked quietly. What do you deserve? Avery considered the question, one she hadn't allowed herself to contemplate in years of focusing solely on her son's needs. Peace, she said finally, and maybe, eventually, forgiveness, both giving it and receiving it. As she walked back to the car where her 3 sons waited, Avery felt something shift inside her. Not a dramatic transformation, but a small opening, a crack in the wall she had built around her heart 5 years ago. Whether that opening would lead to reconciliation or simply a more peaceful co-parenting relationship remained to be seen. For now, it was enough that her son was alive, that her family was healing, and that the future held possibilities she hadn't dared to imagine just weeks ago. 6 months later, Noah stood on the soccer field, his heart beating strong and steady beneath the faded surgical scar on his chest. The rehabilitation had been grueling at times, but he had approached it with the same quiet determination that characterized everything he did. Now, cleared for full athletic participation, he was finally rejoining his brothers on the field. From the sidelines, Avery watched with a mixture of pride and lingering anxiety as Noah took his position. Beside her stood Logan, who had become a regular presence in the boys' lives over the intervening months. Their arrangement had evolved naturally: Sunday dinners at Avery's house, occasional outings with the boys, and Logan's steady involvement in Noah's recovery process. He looks good out there, Logan observed, his eyes never leaving Noah. Strong. The cardiologist said his heart function is actually better than before the surgery, Avery replied. Your repair didn't just fix the defect, it optimized the entire structure. That was the goal, Logan said simply, though Avery could hear the pride in his voice. Though I have to admit, watching him run onto that field is more satisfying than any surgical success I've ever had. The whistle blew and the game began. Mason immediately took control of the ball, his aggressive style a stark contrast to Noah's more strategic approach and Carter's methodical defense. Together, the triplets formed a formidable team unit, their innate connection allowing them to anticipate each other's moves with uncanny precision. They're extraordinary together, Logan murmured, like different aspects of the same consciousness. They always have been, Avery agreed. Even as infants, they seemed to communicate without words. When Noah scored the first goal of the game, executing a perfect play that Mason and Carter had helped set up, the sidelines erupted in cheers. The boy's face lit up with joy as his brothers tackled him in celebration. All 3 of them a tangle of identical grins and triumphant shouts. Logan's hand found Avery's in that moment, squeezing gently in shared pride and emotion. She didn't pull away immediately, allowing the connection to linger as they watched their sons, truly their sons together, for the first time in 5 years. Later that evening, after the boys had gone to bed, exhausted but happy from the day's victory, Avery and Logan sat on her porch swing, the autumn air crisp around them. These quiet conversations had become part of their new routine, a chance to discuss the boys' needs and progress without little ears listening. Carter's science teacher called today, Avery said, wrapping her hands around a mug of tea. She thinks he should be tested for the gifted program. Apparently, his understanding of cardiac anatomy is unprecedented for his age group. Logan smiled. I may have given him a few advanced textbooks. I know. I found them under his bed along with a notebook full of questions he's too shy to ask you directly. Questions about medicine? Some, Avery admitted. Others about you. Your childhood, your family, what you were like when you were his age. Logan's expression sobered. What should I tell him? The truth, Avery said simply. That's all any of them want from you. Not perfection, just honesty. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the swing moving gently beneath them. So much had changed in the 6 months since Noah's surgery. Logan had restructured his entire life, delegating more responsibility at Pierce Medical Innovations to make time for his sons. He had moved from his downtown penthouse to a house just 10 minutes from Avery's, ensuring he could be present for school events, soccer games, and medical appointments. Most surprisingly, he had returned to regular surgical practice, reducing his administrative role to focus on what he loved most, the delicate, life-saving work that had drawn him to medicine in the first place. I've been thinking, Logan said finally, breaking the silence, about what Noah asked last week. Avery nodded, knowing exactly which question he meant. During Sunday dinner, Noah had innocently asked why they couldn't all live in one house, since Logan was there so often anyway. What are your thoughts? She asked carefully. That it's not my decision to make, Logan replied. We found a balance that seems to be working. The boys are adjusting well to having me in their lives. I don't want to push for more than you're comfortable with. Avery studied his profile in the dim porch light. The arrogant surgeon who had walked away from his family was gone, replaced by a man who had learned humility through loss and redemption through second chances. I'm not ready for that, she said honestly. Maybe I never will be. What you did, it left scars, Logan. Deeper than Noah's. I know, he acknowledged quietly, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make amends for that, whether or not we ever reconcile romantically. But, Avery continued, I am ready to acknowledge that you've changed, that the man sitting beside me now is not the same man who walked away 5 years ago. Logan turned to face her, hope and caution warring in his expression. What are you saying, Avery? I'm saying that I forgive you, she said, the words both difficult and freeing. Not for you but for me, for our sons. Carrying that anger and hurt, it was like a weight on my heart, a defect of my own that needed repair. Logan's eyes glistened in the dim light. Thank you, he whispered. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm grateful for it nonetheless. As for the future, Avery continued, I don't know what it holds for us, but I'm open to finding out, one day at a time. It wasn't a declaration of love or a promise of reconciliation. It was something more tentative but perhaps more valuable. An acknowledgement that healing was possible, that broken hearts, like Noah's, could be mended with skill, care, and time. 1 year to the day after Noah's surgery, the Matthews family gathered in Logan's backyard for a celebration. The occasion was officially Noah's heart birthday, marking his successful recovery, but it had become something more, a celebration of their journey as a family, in all its complicated, imperfect glory. Carter was deep in conversation with one of Logan's research colleagues, his natural scientific curiosity finding a perfect outlet in the medical world his father inhabited. Mason was organizing an impromptu soccer match with neighborhood kids, his leadership skills blossoming under Logan's encouragement. And Noah, the quiet center of their family storm, was helping Avery arrange food on the picnic tables, his health fully restored, his heart strong. Penny for your thoughts, Logan said, joining Avery as she watched their sons. Just thinking about how much has changed in a year, she replied. How close we came to losing Noah, and how that almost tragedy ended up healing so much else. Sometimes the heart has to break before it can be properly mended, Logan observed, his surgeon's metaphor carrying deeper meaning. Very poetic for a man of science, Avery teased gently. I've learned a lot this year, Logan admitted, about what really matters, about the difference between success and fulfillment. Their conversation was interrupted by Noah calling everyone to the tables for lunch. As they gathered, the three boys, Avery and Logan, Mia and other friends who had supported them through the crisis. Avery was struck by the fullness of the moment. This wasn't the family she had envisioned when she and Logan had first fallen in love, Nor was it the broken remnant she had struggled to hold together after he left. It was something new, something hard-won through pain and forgiveness. "Before we eat," Logan said, standing at the head of the table, "I'd like to propose a toast." He raised his glass, looking at each of his sons in turn before his gaze settled on Avery. "To second chances, to healing hearts, and to the extraordinary woman who taught me what true strength looks like. And to Dr. Pierce," Noah added with his characteristic directness, "for fixing my heart so I could play soccer again." Laughter rippled around the table, breaking the emotional tension of the moment. As they ate and celebrated, Avery found herself watching Logan with their sons. The easy affection that had developed between them, the respect he showed for the people they were becoming, his commitment to being present in ways both large and small. Later, as the party wound down and the boys played a final soccer match in the fading light, Logan joined Avery on the porch steps. "I have something for you," he said, pulling a small box from his pocket. "It's not what you might think," he added quickly, seeing her expression. "Just something I should have given you a long time ago." Inside the box was a delicate silver locket. When Avery opened it, she found a tiny photograph of the triplets as newborns, their identical faces peaceful in sleep. "I've carried this picture in my wallet for 5 years, Logan confessed. "Even when I convinced myself I was better off without you all, I couldn't let go completely." Avery touched the photograph gently. "Why give it to me now? Because I don't need a secret reminder anymore. I have the real thing, 3 amazing sons who somehow found it in their hearts to give me another chance." Logan's voice softened. "And maybe someday, their mother might do the same." Avery closed the locket, holding it tight in her palm. "I already have," she said quietly. "Not to pick up exactly where we left off, too much has happened for that, but to start something new, something better." Logan's hand found hers, their fingers intertwining as naturally as they had a decade ago, when they were young and in love and unaware of the challenges ahead. "One heartbeat at a time," he said, echoing the phrase he had used during Noah's recovery. "One heartbeat at a time," Avery agreed, leaning slightly against his shoulder as they watched their sons play in the gathering dusk, 3 identical figures moving in perfect harmony, their hearts strong, their future bright with possibility. If the story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to Timeless Love Tales with Mr. Harrison. In the comments, I'd love to hear your thoughts on forgiveness and second chances. Can people truly change? Is there any mistake too great to be forgiven when a child's well-being hangs in the balance? Remember, sometimes the most beautiful healing happens in the places where we've been most deeply wounded. And sometimes, the heart that needs the most delicate repair isn't the one beating in our chest, but the one we've closed off to protect ourselves from pain. Until next time, this is Mr. Harrison, reminding you that in the story of life, it's never too late to write a new chapter.